La Tomatina is one of Spain's most iconic fiestas. In this cultural video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this very messy but very fun Spanish fiesta. La Tomatina happens in the town of Buñol every year on the last Wednesday of August. It's known as the world's largest food fight. And the food? You guessed it, tomatoes. In fact, every year over 150,000 kilos of ripe tomatoes are used in the fiesta. They're not eaten, but rather thrown around in an epic food fight among thousands of tourists and locals alike. The town of Buñol itself is otherwise a quiet, typical Spanish town near the Mediterranean Sea. It's 40 kilometers west of Valencia and a couple of hours south of Barcelona. The town only has a population of 9,000 people, but draws over 15,000 tourists for the big event. Most people who attend La Tomatina end up staying in either Barcelona or Valencia. There's a nice historic castle worth a visit. Basically, the big draw for the tourists is the tomato throwing party. You've probably seen the footage before and thought, what on earth is the point of this massive food fight? Who came up with the idea of gathering thousands of people to fling tomatoes all over the place in a tiny Spanish town? Well, there's actually no concrete proof of how the event originated. There are a couple of theories though, and the main one is that La Tomatina has its roots in a religious procession that went horribly wrong back in 1945. The story goes that someone started causing a ruckus during a procession, making an important participant fall to the ground. A fight then broke out, and there just happened to be a vegetable stand right there with lots of tomatoes. People started grabbing the tomatoes and throwing them at one another in the chaos of the fight. For whatever reason, the townspeople kept reviving the tomato fight year after year. During the Franco dictatorship in Spain, the event was banned on several occasions, but that never stopped the town. Finally, after Franco's regime ended, La Tomatina became an official event. In the 1970s, it started to gain popularity across Spain and internationally. For years, the event attracted upwards of 50,000 people, but for safety and economic reasons, the town decided to limit participation to just 20,000 people in 2013. So what actually happens during La Tomatina? Is it all just about throwing some tomatoes around? Well, mostly, yes, though the festival does get started with a fun and popular competition called Palo Jabón. Now imagine a big, greasy pole as tall as a two-story house. A ham is perched on the top. The prize is the ham, and to get to it will take a lot of agility and courage. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds. In recent years, very few people have succeeded in getting the ham, but in any case, the event organisers let this competition go on for about an hour, starting at around 10 AM. At 11 AM, the cannon sounds and the trucks start rolling in. Of course, it's the trucks that are bringing the super ripe tomatoes. They roll into the Plaza del Pueblo in the centre of the town and dump the tomatoes, and that's when the fighting begins. It's a free-for-all. Who can grab as many tomatoes as possible and start throwing them at anything and anyone. The trucks then make their way around the town's centre, dropping more ammunition and pelting festival goers with tomatoes as well. The whole event lasts about an hour. When the second cannon sounds, the food fight stops. At this point, everyone is thoroughly coated in tomatoes, as you might expect, and once the event ends, the town's residents kindly rinse everybody off from their balconies. The town also organises to clean the streets and hose them down. Miraculously, the tomato's citric acid acts as a natural cleansing agent, so the streets actually look incredibly clean when it's all said and done. Once everyone gets cleaned up, there's a big party in the evening, so stick around to hear everyone's tales of the big fight and enjoy the nightlife in this otherwise quiet town. So that pretty much sums up La Tomatina. What else do you need to know? Well, the rules. In fact, there are several official rules put out by event organisers. For one, you can't throw anything but tomatoes. You can't tear or pull off anybody's shirt. Another very important rule is that you must squish the tomatoes first before throwing them, which of course makes them softer and less dangerous. Otherwise, I can tell you, it really hurts to get hit by a full tomato. You need to keep it a safe distance from the trucks too, because it gets very crowded, so this is actually very important for safety. As soon as the second cannon sounds, everyone needs to stop throwing tomatoes. In practice, it's not quite so abrupt as that, but it does work. There's also a huge team of security staff for the event, and you have to follow their directions to ensure everybody's safety, and I imagine you don't throw tomatoes at them. Does this all sound appealing to you? If it does, then here are some tips for joining the fun. First things first, you have to get a ticket. Due to the popularity of the event, and for economic reasons, there's a limited supply. 15,000 tickets are offered to tourists every year, but don't worry, it just costs 12 euros. What to wear to the event? Well, it's messy, so old clothes are best, and bring a change of clothes too, because you're going to get totally soaked from the tomatoes and be hosed down afterwards. Also, you'd think that flip-flops or sandals would make sense for this reason, but actually, you're likely to get your foot stomped on at least a few times, so it's better to wear old trainers. If you want to take photos or videos, make sure your camera is waterproofed totally. Last but not least, you can opt to wear goggles. They do tend to get dirty quickly though, so if you object to wearing goggles, keep your head down. ¿Te parece divertido? Does it sound like fun? I assure you it is. It's hilarious and chaotic at the same time. If big crowds and tomatoes don't bother you at all, then I'd highly recommend checking out La Tomatina at least once in your lifetime. Would you like to learn more about Spanish-speaking culture and traveling around the Spanish-speaking world? If so, we've got more videos for you right here. Subscribe to the channel for more just like this, y nos vemos en el próximo.